those people, whether it be female or male, like need to be gone, instantly gone, and you need to find someone else to bring into your corner that's going to push you, to tell you the hard truth, to be there and push you to be greater. To, dude, no, you're not doing one motor, you're doing two. Like you're falling behind. Let's get going. Like go go go. It's you need someone in your corner that is willing to tell you what you don't want to hear, which is the truth.
What's up? Malcolm McCassie here on Time to Breathe. Soak it up, take it in. Life moves fast. I'm here with one of my longtime super buddies, greatest friends. I mean, we have shared more memories. I have no idea where this one's even going to go just because the amount of history we've had together. No other than my boy, Supercross, Motocross, young star, superstar, factory rider, and now super dad, super husband, and super trainer, Davi Millsaps. What's up, my buddy?
What's up, man? Living life.
Dude, this is long overdue. Let's just start with that.
It's been a minute, man. It's been quite a minute since I've really seen you, in person, let alone on a computer screen. So
Why don't you just take full advantage of your funny humor and just cap on me like, hey, Malcolm, it would have been nice. Hey, you know what? Hey,
I could cold stone your ass pretty quickly for sure.
Well, but I seriously love you though. It's kind of certain friends you have in life, like of course you being one of them, is like you just kind of carry on right where you left off. And I think we've shared so many memories and the biggest growth points. You were such a young kid when we met, and
Yeah.
I don't want to drop the wrong age, but I feel like I was watching you, following you, because you're one of the biggest stars of amateur motocross. I was at No Fear, became the team manager, marketing guy, and was fortunate to scoop you from AXO. Back in the day, were you 11 or 12?
No, I would think I was. Okay, so I was actually thinking about that the other day when No Fear came out. Was it 98 or was it 2000?
Man, that's a great question too. I believe McGrath was in Fox in '97. I think it was '98.
It's 98. I would have been 10.
So you're 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of McGrath, speaking of No Fear,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll dive into so
Yeah,
much.
I
But I
still I
remember
still
like,
have the jersey that you walked me out.
ah,
It's framed up in my storage right now because I have nowhere to hang it. But that jersey from 1998, number one McGrath, from Tampa Bay Supercross, is still framed, signed. It's not going anywhere.
I felt so grateful that I was able to connect rad people with rad people.
Yeah.
You were the mini warrior at that time, and McGrath was the guy, the king. Describe like how crazy it was, because people that didn't get to see him race and didn't see him filling stadiums, knacking, and just bringing the culture that he did. But
Yeah.
what was it like? I just want to hear from you too, kind of selfishly. 10-year-old Davey, obviously you have tons of amateur titles. You're one
Yeah.
of the top factory guys, racing. But then we connect at Tampa, and you go in the semi, and it's just a one-on-one bonding.
Well, I mean, obviously Tampa was a close Supercross for me because of me being from St. Cloud, Florida. Um, I just had signed with No Fear, and you're like, "Hey, I'm in Tampa." I think, well, I don't even think cell phones really they weren't a thing, so I don't really know. I don't know how the communication happened between you and my parents. But we were there, saw you, and you literally grabbed me and brought me into MC's rig, and he was a 1-800 collect at the time, and 1-800 collect, and it was Mazda, the Yamaha, and you walked me in and said, "Hey, Jeremy, this is Davey. This is our new rider with No Fear." And he's like, "What up, dude? What up, dude?" And he reached up. I still remember to the day. He reached up, whatever was, the loft up there. Reached up, pulled down a jersey, handed it to me, and then signed it right there and said, "Dude, here you
Wow.
go." Like it was like, I mean, obviously watching him in Supercross was it the Orange Bowl in Orlando? When he came out with his big shark mobile, fire coming out and stuff like that. In Orlando was like one of the first Supercross races I've ever been to, and seeing him with that entertainment alone is what drew me to watching him. And then for him 2 years later, or maybe more, I don't know. I'm just throwing 2 years. That's I was 8. Um,
Yeah.
to then handing me a jersey. Yeah, and I still have it framed. You know what I mean? And that was that was forever ago. So
God.
yeah, that memory is instilled in my brain, and even after all my head injuries, it's still there. So it's it meant a lot to me. One, for you to bring me in, but for him to act the way he did towards me. He could have been a dick. He could have been just, oh, I'm too cool. I'm stuck up. I'm the king. Who's this little shithead? But he didn't. He literally handed me a jersey. He didn't have to, and went about his way. He took the time to do that for a 10-year-old. That was to me, that hooked me in, for being a fan for life.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah,
Because for me, you can imagine I'm still equally as stoked. I somehow have this job where I get
yeah,
to travel with the king of Supercross,
yeah.
repping a brand that I was already with No Fear, but then Jeff Sirwall and McGrath launched the
Mhm.
motocross line. It was, insane amateur team that I got to build with you guys.
Yeah,
But then there was Kevin Windham, Toritelli, we had Metzger, Hart,
Pastrana.
Parks Bonifay, the crossover. I
Yeah,
mean, so many insane guys. But for me connecting you two guys, I still get the chills because it was so cool because I
yeah,
know I know how impactful things can be, and to your point, how like that must you just said how you still have the jersey framed.
yeah,
Like things like that, how much of an impact do you think like I know there's probably a mix of scenarios of just meeting these superstars, these unattainable, people when you're young and you grow up with, but then you guys obviously became friends
yeah.
after that. But how much of an impact, like you said, do you think things like that have like on you as a kid when you're like going after this and you're the guy everyone's looking at that's the next, much younger but next
Yeah.
McGrath.
For me, it was between him and Travis. You had him who took his time for a 10-year-old, um, and then you have Travis who takes this time for everyone and their mom across the board, and was running late to practices and races because he's still out there signing or still out there talking and mingling. So you look at those two guys that I obviously grew up with, or I grew up with more Travis obviously, but watching McGrath and how he was with me at 10, and then Travis growing up with him and seeing how he is with all his fans and how he draws the people in. So I think those two impacts for me, it was just I was trying to find a good mixture of both. Yeah, I'm not the Travis, I'm not that guy, but I kind of wanted to be the MC to where if a 10-year-old come up to me, I wanted to speak to him, like he did with me, and I wanted to be able to interact as much as Travis was interacting with all his fans, but I wasn't. I didn't have that personality that was the ha ha, and it's it's great because I was able to see both ends of the spectrum, from being the king to where of Supercross to where I feel like Travis might have been the king of the fans. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
um, I got to have that impact from both of them, and then McGrath being a Honda riding mentor, when I was on the team Honda, he was there and stuff like that. And then still to this day, having Travis as one of my good friends, it was an impact from when I was a child, all the way up until I still am to this day, even though I'm more of, I feel like, standoffish towards a lot of people now. But it's I don't know, man. When you look at that from a young perspective, how I was with my entire career, I try to look at those two as a mixture of how do I become an in between for the
Yeah.
fans.
In the midst of all that, like you kind of made a joke before we even jumped on this, and you just kind of said, "Man, Malcolm, your computer, you're having trouble getting on." You said, "Dude, I grew up in a barn. Don't give me
Yeah,
crap." You
yeah,
know, Florida, Georgia boy, growing up, like I mean, you start this goes. I'm excited to jump into all this because honestly, these are things that as friends, I've been known you for
yeah.
so long. I don't ask enough. You started riding at what age?
3.
You started riding at 3. When did you start? You were on 50s. Were you Cobra kid? What was the?
Well, I was one of the first ones to ever race the Cobra, and it's weird too because that got brought up. Bud Mamoni, the original owner of Cobra, and Sonny actually called me a couple weeks ago out of the blue. Haven't spoke to them in decades, and they call me out of the blue, and I'm like, who is this? I'm like, it's Sonny and Bud. I'm like, dude, no way. So I mean, it was cool to hear a familiar voice from way in the past. But I was 3 when I was given a PW50, and I lived in St. Cloud, Florida, and I rode around, and we had quite a bit of acreage there, so we rode around the yard, and then we ended up going to Bifflo. That was more of my home track back then. and then went to Cobras, and then from Cobras, obviously the 60s and the 80s, and then 85s, and then on up. But then from Orlando or St. Cloud, I moved to Cairo, Georgia. So
So let's go back to the Cobra. So what
yeah,
I like was it an Adam Cianciarulo kind of story? Because I remember it being yes, you were one of the winningest amateur kids. Is from what I mean, I was at a lot of them, as you
yeah.
got older. But did you? What was the first win on a Cobra? What was the first moment when mom or dad or the family are going, "Whoa, like this is legit"?
I mean, honestly, the first win on the Cobra, I don't know exactly what race it was. I mean, it could have been a mini O's, it could have been a qualifier for Loretta, but I know my first big win was Loretta on it.
Okay.
And my number 88 came from Brent Mamoni, who was the owner's son, who raced it the first year before, and he was number 88. And since he was passing the Cobra torch down to me, he asked me, because I had eights on my bike, with 18, if I would run number 88 for him on the Cobra. And I did, and I won. And I was pretty, pretty set with being superstitious about things. So 88 every year was my number at Loretta because of that. And that was from Britt Mamoni. And I think that was 96 was my first win
Yeah.
on the Cobra, 95, 96.
So you kind of, I mean, sounds like you kind of put Cobra on the map. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Because I
pretty
was the
bud, I guess.
first Cobra to ever go pro, first Cobra rider to go pro. I was the first Cobra rider to win a Supercross 250 and 450, and the first one to win a championship in the 250 class as well. So there's a lot of Cobra history with me if you go back to it. Like the Cobra you see at Loretta's number 88, obviously that was OG days, but with the plastic wheels and the big bars and stuff like that. So yeah, the Cobra, that's, I mean, I think that changed the trajectory of my career with how fast it took off.
No, that's insane. So this kind of sets a narrative, which I mean, we call them moto moms, moto dads,
Yeah,
or just parents that have kids in any
yeah,
sport. When you're in and it starts to go at that level at age 5, 6, whatever you were,
yeah.
and you win on the Cobra, the narrative goes now to us on this call, reverse engineer that your life was literally tracks, training, traveling,
Hmm.
everything. And
Yeah,
it's a whole different world. Like when you said, I grew up in a barn,
yeah.
people don't understand, especially at the level you hit at such a young age. I mean, Cian Cirillo, Nico Izzies. I mean, there's all kinds of names of how much joy because you're doing what you love, but how much pressure comes onto a kid that you start to have fun with it and you realize, no, I can't have fun. I have to win.
It's lonely at the top, and
Ah,
it's I never really understood that expression until I retired. But now looking back at it, it made a lot of sense. Um, but the Nico Izzies, he was at the barn with me. He was there riding in Georgia with me. The Adam Spence, really, he's way younger than me, so no, he never was there. But we had, I don't everyone that's not really around riding anymore was there at the time. Um, but I grew up in St. Cloud. Well, I don't know consider growing up and raised whatever, but I moved out of Florida when I was 12. And then but I saw you when I was 10 at Kyle Farnell's house when we were filming for, I forgot what it was for, but we were at Kyle Farnell. You have to remember who that is.
yeah, I
We were
remember.
there at his house, and that's when No Fear was being launched. I was AXO, but AXO was kind of going away at the time, and
Hmm.
it was between you and Sinisalo, between No Fear and Sinisalo.
Oh,
And I'm like, Sinisalo, I got the gear that came in. I'm like, oh man, it's sick, but like, there's just something about No Fear, like the gear hadn't been out yet, but it's like, I got to be there. So like that was the whole situation of the moving. I think I was still in Florida at the time when I signed with No Fear. So yeah, I was I
mhm.
was I was 10. Um, that whole realm, man, it was crazy. I mean, my room was 8 by 10 and a barn with one bathroom. My mom, my sister, little Brian, my brother, and his dad. So we were five of us in a little barn, 1,000 square foot, with one bathroom with two females. Imagine. And it had the phone line that connected to the internet. So if you were on the phone, you couldn't be on the internet. So my sister obviously was on the phone. It was just the whole thing, man. No one, the guys don't even know what yellow pages are anymore.
What is I mean, what does a sacrifice look like in that? Like, I honestly, I've known your mom and dad as long
Yeah,
as I've known you, and I've had so many great memories and experiences with both of them. I mean, once again, we all know racing gets crazy, but
yeah.
especially when you're at the top like you were. But what were when you look back? I mean, well, actually, there's a whole lot. We'll kind of full circle, but like the sacrifices. Like, when did you start to understand how hard what was given up to sacrifice for what now is becoming this career path for you?
You know, I think for me, like, and some people may not get it, but I think I was pushed so hard as an amateur and trained so hard as an amateur, especially after my mom and Jeannie hung out and we were all riding with Ricky and just constantly every day, every day, every day from the time I was 10 years old up. It I feel like the sacrifice for me was an amateur to where when I went pro, it was so much. I was doing so much that that sacrifice kind of faded, and towards the end of my career, I started learning that I had to sacrifice again in order to get back to the top. And like, the 13 era and stuff like that. And for me, like my sister, my brother, obviously my brother was little when we moved. My sister sacrificed whatever, friends and stuff from Orlando, but so did we. So did I, and we all moved at the same time. We're all within my sister and I are a year and a half apart, so sacrifice for both of us. She's, she got to go to school, she got to do her thing in Georgia, so I don't know exactly everything that she sacrificed for moving from Florida. I know my mom and dad sacrificed leaving their home in Florida to go to Georgia for me to have land to ride. But, for myself, it was back then, I didn't have a life of what, like the school life or anything like that, which I don't consider to be technically a sacrifice because my social skills and you know, how I am on a day-to-day basis, being around you guys and people like you or the kids I was racing with or adults around the track every single day of my life, that became the normal. If I go out in a public area now to people that don't know much about dirt bikes, like yeah, it's socially awkward because they bring up schools and colleges and high schools, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, But other than that, I can never look back on the amateur or sacrifices or anything that was made across the board as something that was the wrong way.
No, that's
Yeah,
I mean, first and foremost, the family side of it. Like I said, I mean, you know me. A lot of marketing guys and team manager guys weren't at the amount of events from
yep.
7 a.m. till closing like I was through the entire mini O's for what 15 years.
Well, you slept in my
Um,
motorhome, dude.
oh, dude, I mean, dude, the motorhome was the life, dude, on wheels, right?
Yep,
But but
pretty much.
but it's crazy because like it was so interesting because like it's must what did I miss out in all this time being there? To your point on school, I missed out on nothing. I
Hmm.
actually got to have extended family
Yep,
like you guys and all the families. Like, I mean, when it's Thanksgiving, you're at Mini O's, it's a whole different feeling. Cause I mean,
yep,
you got the pressure of racing. I'm eating all the pumpkin pies and having fun. And, like I said, sleeping in the motorhomes with you
yep.
guys. But it's hard to describe like how fortunate and how grateful is there circumstances and everything. Of course, it's called life.
Yep.
But looking back at missing school and missing a mix of that stuff, you literally had a class of what 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Just be meaning like a class without on the road,
Hmm.
everyone's homies, everyone were, jumping golf carts
Yep.
at the races. I mean, you have to train hard. And if you had your mom, of course, and Carmichael's mom, it was a different intensity. But if you were in a good mood on any day, meaning like you were the kid in you was just coming
Yeah.
out, it was hard. I feel this way about Adam Cianciarulo, probably Nico Izzy's. There's, Austin Stroups. Maybe there's certain kids that just had a level that they were untouchable when they were on.
Hmm.
But you had to stay on all the time. You talk about 13, so suddenly you're now a young teenager. Girls, life, all these
Yeah.
different things, and it's like you're like whoa, 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 and then you're curious. This is the funny thing about the 13 thing. So remember when you came with I think it was you and Evanu and a few of us, and we were like, oh guys, hey, I'm gonna pick up my sister from prom. or whatever, and her friends, right? You remember?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, and you guys, dude, you guys are like, yo, bro, it's like, dude, girls, this and that. You're talking about game. You guys are superstars. You're making money. You're like, 11, 12, 13,
Mhm.
whatever. And I was like, dude, the confidence in my back of my, I think it was a Ford F-150 extra cab, and you guys are in the back. And I'm like, guys, we're picking up some California beach blonde, this and that. Their parents own Starbucks, different things, and or whatever. And you're like, no, no, man, this and that. When the door opened and these three blondes, they were whatever, same age, 13, 14, whatever area. You guys were the most quiet. Dude, you guys got it was literally I was worried that I had to go to the hospital because I thought you guys all stopped breathing. And I'm like, and I'm looking in the back seat and I'm all, dude, guys, say something. And the girls are trying to chop it up, but it was these girls were in school on the
Yeah.
beach. Like, I mean, the human connection was all they knew. And all you guys knew was motorsports and the
Mhm.
comfort of being at the tracks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I looked back and it was like deer in the headlights. And I'm looking at you guys, I'm all, boys, my homies, you guys were just killing it, crushing all this game till they jumped until they opened the door. And now you're like seized up.
So if I was 13, that means Evan New was 15. So he should have been the one that was leading the ball game because he's 2 years older than me.
The
And I can
Avenue
see him
buckle
freezing.
too.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd imagine we all did back then. I mean, it took me a long time not to buckle. But God, dude, those days, man, it's like the whole thing is, we got to experience, like you said, the school and stuff. We were experiencing travel in the world. What you're reading in a textbook, we're getting to see in real life. We're being, in person with it. And dude, it was just such an awesome childhood. It's such an awesome life to have to be able to do all that stuff and to be able to do with people that you actually were friends with, that you were, you
Mhm.
were boys with, and still to this day, a lot of those people that I traveled with or I was as an amateur with, like I still talk to them, and like little Brian, obviously still talk to him, and Martine, and I still see Chisholm every once in a while. Gerke I raced with in 16. I heard he lives in Florida, owns a landscape company. There's all these people that even Stroop hit me up not too long ago, and it's just crazy times, man. Everyone goes their separate ways, but for some reason in this sport, at the end of the day, everyone starts to come back to what they know, and that's moto.
Mhm. I totally agree with you. I mean,
Yeah,
to me, like you and I being on right now, I know we've been texting. We always kind of jump in here and there, but it's
yeah,
like you become when you become a dad,
yeah,
and when you get married, and we're gonna have to jump around because I think my brain's gonna go from like fun moments, but because
yeah.
I mean, there's this whole amateur now to becoming a pro to going through all that stuff. To me, I'm more excited about the things behind the scenes and the things in between because you've brought so much to my life as a friend, but you've inspired so many. I mean, you climbed the charts, call it music, right? You
Yep.
climbed the top of the Billboard charts, one of the most sought after, marketable, rad human beings. But in between that window of saying the glory story is all the perspective gained. And I agree with you. Like you learn so much through the school of hard knocks, and
Hmm.
yes, the blessing of family coming together, but that's the beauty of motorsports. Family coming together. Not everyone's as close or gets to spend that much time with their family. Call it a blessing. Sometimes call it a heck of a
Eh,
fight. But it's like, dude, like all those memories is literally talking to you now is insane perspective
so,
that now as you jump into this stuff, and I'll kind of lead into the, I've been with my wife now 13 years, and I remember in Havasu when you're like, Brittany's the one. And you're like, no, no. And you're like, and you were kind of mad, give me that. I know, bro, you pulled me over. No, no, she's the one,
that was
this and that.
18 years ago.
18, was that 18 years ago?
Hmm.
God,
18 years ago.
18 years ago. And now, obviously you got Dane and,
Bryn.
and Bryn. And what, gosh, I just have to say, first off, dude, I see you as a dad and I see where you're at. I see you coaching. I see, what you're doing with Julian.
Hmm.
And it's insane to me because he's 17,
Yep.
but once again, you as a dad, I've seen you grow too. No relationship's easy. It takes two. You go through the highs and lows. I mean, we could jump into anything and you want to because this is to me about like bonding you and I, but also the value of
Yep.
how much I look up to who you've become. And I know you've had so many, obstacles, trials, and tribulations, but I love how you're saying, man, every single one of them, you found the most positive outlook and the lesson. It didn't happen to you, it happened for you.
Yeah.
And So I mean, run us into Brittany, but run us into all of this stuff. And 18 years ago, how old were you again? When
18.
you guys, oh, you were 18.
Uh-huh.
So 18, and this kid that was shy at 13 in the back of my truck that couldn't talk to Brittany and I have been friends for a long time. I can almost say I was like her guardian friend because it was always just a true friendship, a true
Yep.
respect for her and everything. And like we've always had fun. We always laughed. I mean, I have so many photos, but she was a real woman. She was young, but she was like, it was almost like in the car, she was my sister,
Yeah.
and from the beach. And then even though she was in the industry and she did the supercross and stuff, what was that like? Do you like what is when you look back 18 years from this amateur kid to suddenly going, I'm locking down and now married. You guys are a beautiful family. You got the kids. You've transitioned a ton, but just take us to that moment.
Yeah, I met her in '05 when I won the East West Shootout in Vegas, and she won Miss Supercross that night, and we met on the podium. And then we went to back in those days we had the press conferences where you'd go in and the three would sit up on the top and start talking. Well, the 250 guys were talking at the time, which is now the 450s. They were talking, and I was sitting there waiting for the 250s or 125s to go up, and then I see this blonde in the back. I'm like, huh, she was just at the podium. And I'm like, she's over here by herself, not talking to a soul, like nervous as can be. I like walk over to her, what's up? Like I didn't buckle at that time. My buckling was done. So I walked up to her, talked to her a little bit, and went up and did a press conference, and then saw her again that summer a few times at some of the races, and got her number at Steel City. I got her number and talked on and off for a long time, and then started dating a year later. So it took a bit. Yeah, we had this throughout the whole year, but I started dating a year later, and then she moved in with me a year after that. So, history ever since. It's 2 kids later. This July will be 18 years that we've been together. Long, long, long time. It's almost half my life. So
Like, yeah.
crazy.
Like you guys have, I mean, something's going to stand out once again. There's a big kind of thing that I'm feeling. Is like, but it's like were you factory Suzuki right at that point or at the beginning?
When I met her,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So you're factory Suzuki. I'm gonna bring up something funny. This is from my perspective, and then you can correct me. So if I butcher it, I'm gonna feel like how I remember it. Okay. So you used to take vitamins called Bionics, right?
God, I forgot
Okay.
about those.
Yeah, no, okay, but tell me they were horse pills. They were packed in, and you would take up to 25 to 35 of those pills a day. Hey, I love you, Lee Ramage, but that was a lot of pills. Tell me if I'm right so far.
You're right in the sense of yes, I took them, but wrong timeline.
Oh, you weren't taking them at Factory Suzuki.
You,
You were Factory Honda?
I was factory Honda when I was taking those.
Okay,
USANA was what I was taking on factory Suzuki because that was what my mom was a part of.
gotcha.
So the
Okay,
the CoQ10 and stuff like that with the USANA pills. Oh yeah,
okay, so I'm gonna give you props because this is gonna be me you growing and 18 years old. Obviously, you guys have been married now, family, kids. So this
yeah.
is a huge respect on positioning. But this is funny how I remember like the story coming out is you were such a gentleman, right? Like let's open up this topic that no one likes to talk about. It's like, okay, girls, respectfully, they don't pass gas, they don't do anything. They're just these beautiful angels, right? Love you women. Okay. And then there's you who's trying to be a gentleman, right? So we try to respect and like, our manners or whatever. So you're taking like 38 to 40 bionic pills, right? Your insides are trying to figure out what the heck's
Yeah.
going on, but you're such a humble gentleman. You will not even dare jump in the vicinity of breaking wind in front of this beautiful girl, which is now 18 years together, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's going, man, you're like, man, you're racing, you're at the top of your game, you're factory Honda. Either way, I was trying to figure out the bike moment. But you guys are just all in and everything's there. And I'm going, and all of a sudden you're out on the whoops and everything. I hear all these stories about your stomach, your stomach, your stomach. And you were holding in your gas. You were holding, like, I remember the story, at least how I remember it. you were such a gentleman. You're holding it in, and it was jacking up your stomach. You're hitting the whoops. You're at the top of your game, and you're taking all these pills. Your stomach's just going, dude. There's a lot of vitamins. I don't think any human should probably take that many vitamins. And you're at the top of your game. You're at the top
Yeah.
elite athlete, physically fit. Am I even in the right vicinity of like what I remember at that point? And then finally, you realize that, oh my gosh, I gotta I gotta release it somehow.
So I actually ended up getting checked and getting all sorts of
Sorry, that's
testing
my
done.
I'm having a
No,
flashback.
no, no. I had all sorts of testing done and images of my stomach and my intestines and everything else. And all of it came back to where I was full of shit and I was full of gas. And had to stop holding it, and that was then, you know. Now I
Yeah.
don't. Now I don't. I mean, it was so painful back then,
Oh,
and it wasn't fun to ride with, and because it wasn't just because of Brittany, it was how I was raised. You do not do that around women ever,
yeah.
regardless of what it is. And then when you're racing, it's so hard to let it go. But then
Yeah.
you get back in the semi, and everyone's in the semi,
I've
and you don't want to do it around there. Uh,
oh,
so you're like, huh,
oh.
when do you do it? And then if I went somewhere, I was either with my mom or Brittany, so that didn't work. But God,
Well, you're
those are
but
some
what my
memories.
point though is you're such dude,
Yeah,
you're such a gentleman. Like I said, I've
that was
known
back
you
then.
you yeah, you're oh yeah, now it's questionable. A
Yeah,
little
yeah,
now
that's
you're a little
questionable.
suspect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now well, I see you putting out on the social. I see lots of love, the gratitude towards your beautiful wife
I
and your
tried to make my
family.
bed this morning, but I didn't have a good good time to do it because I was in between. My backdrop was supposed to be over there. Now I'm here, so my bed's not made. It's a. I try to make the bed for her if I'm here, so I'm gonna try to be nice.
Well, wait. I just said gentlemen, you said no, and you're talking about making beds. It's like
A
you're
bed for her, yes. Just well, she's gonna freak out if she sees this video. She sees it in a mess. She's gonna freak.
oh
Promise.
wow. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, she's gonna show her ring light coming in on the side, like everything's all jacked up. Um Man, that's crazy. What was it? What year did you retire? How old are you?
Well, technically retired in 2018. Um, God, what I've been 29.
Okay.
No, no,
Um,
I just turned 30 in 2018.
what was the hardest transition from this moto family lifestyle, living at the trash growing up? 18 years with Brittany. You could kind of do it pre and post kids. Between that whole thing, but also and retiring. So it's like a lot of identity, especially when you grow up at a track, is all based around racing,
Yeah.
riding, this and that. And it's like coaching and things you're doing now, which I think you're probably one of the best that could ever do it because you have so much perspective and I think the values and the discipline that your era went through, respect to Carmichael and so many that just completely set a bar that
Mhm.
was so high. These kids, I think, to hear that, to feel that, to see that, and I love seeing Kevin Windham in the mix now too, helping out and some of his little
Yeah.
things that he's like, oh yeah, he's like, we all have a good finger. You got to figure out your good finger for the whole shots. And I was just laughing, going, K-Dub's the best. But was there a point in there that was like the most difficult in this transition where your identity is based around this sport, but then you're growing in real life now outside of moto as a husband, wife, and then the kids and the whole deal? Is there like, because I know a lot of people go through things like that, and then there's some stories that we both know that are just really heavy from people like Dave Mira. One
Yeah.
of we all looked up to Dave, still look up to Dave, forever love to Dave Mira, one of the greatest to ever grace action sports and just everything. But the identity after his career, it seemed like, and this happens with a lot of people, becomes difficult. Is there something like that kind of clicks as because now it's like I feel like you're really bringing it all together, but there's always an in between.
I mean, the whole Dave Mira thing, like him going to triathlons, was so sick. And the Ironman and the race across America, setting the world record for the race across America with those four guys that really aren't road bike dudes. Um, but I was talking to Dave back and forth right before he passed about his whole triathlons, and because I was getting into it, and he's like, dude, you got to come train with me. You should try this because I suck at running. I always sucked at running. It's not my love. I can't stand it. but like he's like, dude, you gotta try this and this for running. Like it'll be super helpful for you. Like if you ever come out this way, let me know. I'd love to train with you. And so that was kind of that was right before he ended up passing. So I mean, it was cool that I was able to see him transition into being such a badass athlete outside
Yeah.
of his BMX career. Um, for me, honestly, growing up around racing in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, California, I lived in California when I hit my head and retired. Um, I think the hardest thing for me, honestly, was it wasn't necessarily when I hit my head. We were moving to Havasu and retiring, and so it was no longer a part of racing, changing everything like that, changing where I lived, um, and dealing with my concussion at the time. So there was a whole lot of stuff that was going on for the first few years after my head injury that I think had a lot to play with how I was how I acted. Um, you've known me since God, since I was 10 years old, and I'm always a
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky, like just pumped, you know, moving on, like yeah, let's go. To where when I hit my head, it did a full spin on me, and I became depressed, and I became like suicidal. I became angry and bitter and just holding on to everything, and but I didn't know this. I didn't know this for a while. It took a long time. So I think that for me was the hardest thing to get through for the first about 3 years after my retirement. Um, I think if I was to retire right now, just to go back and do it now, it'd have been a whole different story. It'd have been a whole different ball game. It'd have been a lot better for me, a lot easier for me, a lot, I'd say cooler. But yeah, I mean, the first year after I hit my head, I it's so blotchy of what I remember about the almost the whole year, um, here and there. But I do know after that, it got to the point to where I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, couldn't see anyone, couldn't be around anyone. I needed to figure out how to fix my head. And that was, I think, the biggest, like I said, I think that was the biggest change in my entire life, minus the, leaving racing. And then now when I look at it, it's like, okay, like what purpose do I have? Because I always had a purpose. I'd get up, I'd train, eat my breakfast, I go to the track, I train, I come home, I train again. Not my whole career, by the way, only when I was doing good. But um, the purpose, I think, of having something, is what I think the biggest miss I had in my life. So now with me training the guys that I train, especially with Julian, and it's okay when I get up and I go to the track, like I'm trying to get them to not do what I did. So my purpose now is to show Julian and Juju how to go about his career and his talent, and use his talent and use his speed, and to change his mindset to where he can make something of himself more than I did, and
Mhm.
not make the mistakes that I did, not let the people in that are there to distract you from where you should be because they love the fame, they love the money, they love being around that. Where I don't care. Like I'm not in it for that. Like I want to see him go to the top. And
Mhm.
how do I, and then when I tell him or I tell anyone that I'm around, I'm like, look, like I may have had some of the most talent that in my era I may have, but I didn't utilize it. I didn't train. I was lazy, and
Mhm.
I was easily um, you know, manipulated, or I was too naive in a roundabout way to where I believed and gullible that I could go out and do this and do that and do that and still make it to the top, which is where it's lonely at the top. I didn't figure out till later. I was wanting all these people around because I thought it was cool, but yet you look at the guys who were succeeding, they didn't have anyone around. It was literally them, and like it's funny. I just told Julian that the other day. He's like, dude, like I'm like, dude, it's lonely at the top. He's like, "Fuck, that's true." So it's like I'm trying to instill in him, like, don't do what I did. Like, don't squander your talent because not many people have your speed. They don't have your speed, and you're just starting. They're years ahead of you, and you're already coming in and making a splash in the pool. So it's now is the time for you to dig your heels in and make a mark and do what you can now so you can grow and succeed to where you can retire and be done. Suffer now to where when you're all said and done, you can smile and be happy and be pumped and be energetic about what you've done. um so for me, I think that whole mindset switch and my career and when I ended, now that gave me a purpose again. You know what I mean? It gave me a purpose to show him and show people that I train with as well, like Ryder McNabb and Benny Bloss and Cameron Harrison and Juju. It's trying to show these guys, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not. It's not. And when you're done, if you don't put the work in now, you're gonna be nothing when you're done. You're gonna regret everything that you ever did or didn't do.
Mhm.
And I don't want them to sit in my shoes like that.
But yeah, man, that's well said. Well said, and I'm glad to hear because purpose and the why of life,
Yep.
in anything, people are searching always, and it's always like interesting. It's an interesting thing, but if you're not moving, if you don't have movement, and
Yep.
there's no momentum, it's easy to sit and play the victim mentality,
Yeah.
versus pushing past that. But understandably, what I was saying earlier too, what's crazy how I look at it is I didn't get paid that much when I was at No Fear. I mean, I was nickel and diming, bro. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it was all expenses. Like it was all this big team being a marketing guy, team manager guy, sometimes is this facade of a job that actually is insane, but you're not getting paid a lot for it. You're lucky to do it.
Yeah.
And so, but anyways, I guess my point was I felt looking back now, you're making me think like I didn't know I grew up in a parents separated when I was 2. We had drug busts, we had all kinds of stuff. I mean, I grew up with my skateboard, my dirt bike, and a mix of things, but pretty much through 14, 15 was I had to fall hard every time to learn. I mean, to probably 30, 35 years old, I had to keep I mean, it just hurt, man. Heavy falls, losing things to not understand. But it was for me because I learned so much
Yeah.
like you and how you're able to fall into this purpose and help these guys. But I kind of felt like I always saw what you're talking about, but I wish sometimes not my job, I wish sometimes the opportunity, like if I won the lottery and I was with you full time because, you know, it was all about the friendship to me and it was all about the people. It wasn't about anything else. I mean, I sponsored a lot of dudes that maybe didn't need, maybe weren't deserving. They weren't at your level, but
Yeah.
I looked at them and I saw who they were, the parents and this and that. My point is I always felt kind of like you brought it back up, but I was like, man, I saw people around you sometimes and I saw you searching so much for just a good light that you needed in your corner, and so I can feel what it was. And I mean, I always wish that I could have been around you more times. You're like my little brother, you know. And but to see you push through it, to see you now have this, and everything happens for a reason, is like
Yep.
going, man, like what these kids are able to learn from you, and how you're able to take. Like I always say, like you can't walk in another man's shoes or woman's shoes, whatever. Especially on that case, power to the woman. But it's it's because like my cousin I was talking about the other day that she went through cancer at 16. She had multiple hip replacements, multiple knee replacements, a softball-sized tumor removed around her head. She's still alive, in remission, and still one of the most positive role models to
Yep.
me. I can understand I've broken backs and wrists and concussions and stuff like that. But what you've gained through that is the gift that only you have, and so many people don't use their gifts. So I first off, I think your purpose. I see you as a dad. I see you as a husband, and I know everything is always work. But I see that to me is the truest thing that I've watched you gain and see you recognize. But then now falling into this training thing, I'm like, these guys are getting a young buck that literally has been through everything. So the fact that you guys are able to have that conversation
Yeah.
and your mud talk, I think on you dropped on social, was like, man, the mentality
Yeah.
coming into life, charge now, take advantage of this opportunity, surround yourself with the right people,
Yeah.
all very relevant to everything you're saying, right?
I mean, when I look back now, when the whole thing went down with my mom and I, and we went, our own ways, it's it was at that moment that people started to come into my life that shouldn't have. And I was 19 years old, so and making a, a good amount of money. So you're 19, making a good amount of money, and you've in a roundabout way been controlled your whole life, or sheltered your whole life, should I say, in a roundabout way. that now it's the doors are open and hello, but it Brittany always laughs at it. It's like, man, I should have listened because I should have because she tried and I
Mhm.
just didn't, and because I didn't want to believe it. Um, so that's where, now for me, it's like I can see through those people. I can see through anyone that's just there to take advantage, anyone that's just there for the ride, and not gonna do anything for you. You're not gonna benefit from having them around.
Hey,
And
real sorry, this is gonna help so many young riders, athletes across the board. How do you take what Brittany said? How do you take a hard experience? Once again, respect to your mom and dad for all
yep,
the sacrifices and all the dedication to get you there. But
yep,
then, but then obviously dude, I can't even imagine what it's like to go through a friendship, let alone a mom or a
yep.
family member and have to go through that. What would you say from what Brittany said to now looking in hindsight at that positioning where you're at? How do you surround yourself with the right people? How do you know in your gut, your instinct, all these things people say, but as these young generation are coming up, what do you kind of say, man? Just, you know, how do you take what you went through and how do you kind of like teach them moving forward? Or how do you utilize that?
We're
Not
we're
teach.
we're we're instilled with knowing right and wrong. We know what's right. We know what's wrong. We know as a dirt bike rider, if you grow up racing, you grow up riding, you grow up training, you know what it's needed. And you've seen the Carmichaels, you've seen the Stewarts, you've seen, me for Roundabout Way, the Dungies, the Villapotos, everyone growing up, they know these guys. They see what it's like. They know the McGrath stories, they know the Pastrana stories. And, maybe they don't maybe not go back as far as the Stanton days, but it's for me, it was I knew all this. I watched Ricky ride, I watched him train, I watched what he did. So I knew what needed to be done. I just thought my talent alone can get me there. So I knew what needed to be done. I just didn't want to do it, and
Mhm.
I allowed people in my life that made me believe it was okay to not do it, that it was not needed to go that much. So if I was to say anything right now, it's like if someone comes in your life and you know what needs to get done, even at 19 years old, 18 years old, you know what is needed to get to the top. If you're gonna be a dirt bike rider, you watch, for example, Julian's around Chase, watching him train, watching him ride, watching him do motos, around Plessinger, watching him do motos. It's like what needs to get done. He's Social media nowadays has changed the world for how you can perceive what you need to do. And it's if you have people come in like a trainer or like a man friend, so to say, come in and like, dude, no, you don't need to train today. Let's you can do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's fine. Like those are the people that you need to X out right now. Those are the ones that need to go. They're not there to benefit you. They're there to benefit themselves. And at the end of the day, what happens when you stop making money? What happens when what they're trying to get from you is now no longer in the picture because you don't have it because they've taken it away because you believe them. Now they're gone. Now they're on to someone else. And that is something that if you know what you need to do and you have someone in your corner that if you go to the track and you're like, man, I don't feel good, like I don't want to do two motos today. Okay, cool, yeah, you're good. You gotta do two motos, man. Let's just go home. That guy right then and there needs to be gone. Instantly gone. If you have someone that says don't do a bike ride today, you're fine. Let's go hang out in the pool, or let's go to the bar, or let's go cruise the mall for ladies. I'm saying the mall because that's where it used to be. I don't know what it is nowadays.
Yeah. Swipe right.
Yeah, swipe right, whatever it is. I don't even know. It's like those people, whether it be female or male, like need to be gone, instantly gone, and you need to find someone else to bring into your corner that's going to push you, to tell you the hard truth, to be there and push you to be greater. To, dude, no, you're not doing one motor, you're doing two. Like you're falling behind. Let's get going. Like go go go. It's you need someone in your corner that is willing to tell you what you don't want to hear, which is the truth, and
Mhm.
not let you get away from any of it. Those are the people that you need to surround yourself with. And if it's someone you never thought of, like Brittany, for example, she was that person for me. I just didn't want to believe her, and for me, if I can go back and to believe her, to know that she was telling me the truth and she was being brutally honest, like that's where I think it was so much of what I had just went through with my mom that it kind of was like my blinders were on to all of anything negative in my life. You know what I mean? Which was the truth at the time. So
Yeah.
it was hard for me to differentiate. And now it's like, no, man, it's so clear as day what I could have done, what I should have done. But again, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But I'm happy now with being able to look back at it and understand what I should have done. So if I'm training someone that's young like Julian and McNabb and whatnot, like I can be like, dude, like, no, these guys need to go. Like they're not for you. They are not here to benefit you. They're not here to help you. And one, get off your ass. You're doing your motos today. Get off your ass. You're going for your bike rides. And again, Julian's like, dude, I'm tired of doing and an hour and a half bike ride by myself. That's where lonely at the top, dude. It's lonely at the top. You're not going to have someone that always can hold your hand and go with you. You have to take the steps on your own to go do it by yourself. If you can't do it by yourself and you can't hold yourself accountable, then you're never going to be a champion. You got to hold yourself accountable. You got to hold yourself liable for your own actions. And I'm trying to instill that in them. So,
Dude, that's insane. That's insane. I mean, it hits me so hard on the mom side. Are you and your mom are you and your mom cordial now back or a little bit?
no.
No?
I mean, if she messaged me or whatnot, then yeah, but no, she's also been 17 years almost.
Well, part of life is like, parents take roles in certain
Yeah.
things and it sounds like you're at this place. So awesome. So you are more in love with your wife now than ever. And Brittany and no, hey, I mean, from an outside, maybe,
Yeah.
hey, once again, I feel like it is because I've known her a long time too, and I've known you a long time. And I just see like there's a false side of social media that I sometimes I'm like, man, I'm like, I love the posts, but I'd rather have you that happy off the post,
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that things aren't easy, but so I was gonna lead this. You love Brittany, and you look back now, and Brittany said, Davey, at this time when it didn't make sense. What is that one thing looking back that now you're going, man, I keep falling more and more in love with you because of all these things. And back then, though, in that moment when you're lost, you're going through the hardship, the mom, the whole deal, and all these people are surrounding you, and certain ones that are like taking away what was needed to keep climbing in a sense. What was that one thing? Is there one thing that stands out? Brittany said, dude, Davey, you got this. You need to do this. You don't need these people to get to where you need to get to. You need to believe in yourself and
Um,
go after something. Was there something?
she didn't like the certain people that I was around at the time, and I'm not going to throw names out there.
Yeah.
But when I look back now, it's like, holy shit, she was right. It's like she didn't have to say it. She could have just been along for the ride. She could have been in there for the journey where everyone thought that she was a gold digger. She could have gone and done whatever she wanted to do. She could have been, yeah, let's spend your money, let's spend your money, let's spend your money. It was like, no, she's always like, how do we save? How do we save? How do we save? Or what can we do? What can you do? Where do you got to go? Where do you got to be? You have to go there, go do what you got to do. You have to succeed. And it was looking back, man, it's who she didn't want me around that I think when like I said, look back now, it's like, man, she was right. And it's like she was with me through the ups and downs of everything. She didn't leave my side for any of it. And um, at the end of the day, it was those people that she didn't want me around. And if I would have listened, it would have been way different. And so now when she has her opinion on people, I listen. I tell you that much. Um, so it's taken a lot of years for me to grasp the fact that she was right because I don't like to admit when people are right. Um, so it took a lot of years to grasp that, but honestly, it was the fact that she used to sit me down and be like, Davey, they're not here for you. They're not here for you. They only want your money. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, nah, not them, not them. They're my boys. If only I'd listened. If only I'd listened. That's all I can say, man. If only I'd listened.
Once again, we've all been there. And
Yeah.
like I said, if I look at how you've had to handle a lot of things, not to mention the injuries we talk about, like with head injuries and what
Yeah.
you went through and having to walk through that. And sometimes, oh, it's
Yeah.
just a concussion. Sometimes it's way more than what that is. And it just affects your thinking. I mean, your spine, when things are to just literally,
Yeah.
it's hard to understand. I mean, I broke my back, as you know, with Travis back in the day. Pastrana. I don't even know
Yeah.
really what happened, but I thought he thought we'd bounce in the air or something cool off a jump at Paris in the back, and I landed and broke L1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But I just remember like when nerves were pinched, I would come in and just that alone, I'd be angry. Like
Yeah.
it affects your mood. It affects so much. Just the littlest thing that you don't understand if your spine's not aligned or if
Yeah.
something's going on, let alone in your brain.
The spine, I think, is worse. It it's miserable. It messes with every part of your life, because I've had a back injury now for the last 4 months that I haven't been able to shake, and I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable, and I got to drive 16 hours a week to commute to train. I'm just like, uh, if you guys show up and you don't want to give me your effort, I'm gonna strangle you. It's like that's how I feel right now.
Well, the
It's
real
like,
dude's the real Davy's coming out right now.
like
Hey, you've
no,
been holding back, bro.
but yeah, but no, back injuries are gnarly. I don't care if it's a little one, if it's a big one. The pinched nerves, the herniations, the bulging, the deterioration of the disc, and whatever else it can be. It's brutal. Backs are brutal.
Oh,
So
it's the body. I'm a big dude of faith, and it's like and I feel like just my faith and just I use the Bible as like my guidelines in life because
yeah,
as you're saying, all these things are so hard to fall off on, and simple things like love thy neighbor, just the beauty of that side of it. But
so I grew up with no neighbors. I'm just kidding.
I mean, dude,
I'm
yeah,
just
you
I'm just kidding.
no, you did. I mean, but you guys are such a little squad. You're making me go now. You're gonna make me go somewhere now, and I'll let you take it, and you can sideline it if you want. But um, you 100% of all boys and women go through puberty, right? But
Easy,
you talk.
easy,
Hey,
easy,
hey, I'll let you take
easy.
it. I'm not gonna
No, I
drink.
know where you're
But
going with it.
I'm not gonna go there though. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
I know.
throw it
You
out there.
just you just did.
I didn't even go there yet, though. I'm gonna let you segue it, however. But once again, you talked about manners and how your mom raised you and this
Uh-huh.
and that, like and I respect all that stuff. And obviously, the stories were only funny to me because I watched your manners override and just cause stomach aches. But once again, you talked about having no privacy. It's like you get off the track and you come in, but then you're with your mom or you're with Brittany or with someone. So it's like when you're racing motocross, you're in motorhomes, you're constantly going. I gave you the nickname Spanky.
Yep.
Once again,
Because I
it's
used to beat everyone's ass. We'll go with that.
yeah, you spanked everybody. But hey, how cool was that patch? How cool was that patch with the little rascals on the back though?
Someone just sent me that not too long ago, actually.
I have one.
Yeah, you have one, but then I gave my pants to somebody else, and they still had the patch on it, and they sent me a picture of the patch, and I was like, yeah, bringing back old days. You did too. You sent me one, and then, dude, because everyone used to ask me for pants back in the day. Then you had
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Spanky with little rascals on it. Yeah, that's some memories right there.
That
But
was so cool though, because I mean, honestly, the Little Rascals were so big, and now they got. I mean, there's movies. They still, I think, are kind of all over, for the
yeah,
movies. But man, it kind of is like motocross, and your little crew is kind of like the Little
yeah,
Rascals, right?
yeah,
And you were this scrappy little dude. You're growing up in there. I remember so many races, and rest in peace, Jeff Alessi. That was so sad, to hear that happen. But
yeah,
I mean, I was there on the ground with your dad and Tony, and the battles there, and the battles on the track, and the
yeah.
protesting, and all the craziness. I remember one time, just because it's at least sticks. How once again, I only can say things how I remember them. You could put me in check, but you won the race by like I think almost a lap, and against I think Jeff or Mike got
Yeah.
second and you got protested for too big of spokes.
Yes, at Mosier Valley.
Did you end up winning that, or did the protest go through?
So because the rule book says you can change your wheel, it doesn't say you can change your spokes, just your wheel. But granted, God, what was I, 12 years old? So I didn't read the
Yeah.
rule book. That should be on my mom and dad. And they read it as you can change your wheel, but that's just the rim. So when Tony saw that we had bigger spokes because I was a bigger kid and I could break the spokes, they protested me for the spokes. But I just won the race and he wasn't going to beat me. And I got disqualified for it, obviously. And because they wanted to prove a point, they let me put stock wheels back on my bike and race the next moto against him with stock wheels, and I still beat him. So it was one of those, like, we're gonna prove a point. I didn't win because of my spokes, but he had to get any championship that he could get by protesting me. And
God.
from Loretta to Mosier to Whitney to World Mini, Mini O's, every single race that we were ever in, like he'd protest me, and a few of them he took from me because of just stupid. Like the rule book back in the day, when you jump off the track, you have to enter at the same spot you exit. That rule got changed because of me. By when he hit me in the Ten Commandments, I missed one Ten Commandment. I lost 10 seconds to him, caught him, beat him by 12. He protested me because I went off the track and didn't come back on the right spot. He won that battle. They then changed the rule to where when you exit, you enter at the safest point. That was because of that whole situation. So everyone
Yeah.
in the AMA can thank me. Everyone that's racing now can thank me for that one. But I
Hey,
lost the title because of it. So
how many titles would you have? How many more titles would you have if it wasn't for little random things like that?
I mean, honestly, with all little things that they did, dude, like I don't really like Mosier, Whitney, World Mini, Loretta would have been two, um, three, four, maybe eight more. Nothing like oh my god, but it's eight titles that you know that's a lot of contingency that we were making
Yeah.
back then that we needed. But it's just little stupid things that did not make sense. Like he used to protest over a seat, the seat cover, or having handguards, or
Yeah.
spokes, and it's like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, is there nothing
Yeah.
better? Like, I got racing in Canada. I raced against Mike. My second round, guess who protested me? Mike. I
You
already protested me, and even in a new country. we switched countries and we still got protested. And he won that battle too on that one. But it was not, that wasn't a big deal because he won the battle, but I won the war when it came to the championship that up there. But still, it was never ending with that family.
yeah.
Never ending. Never
It was
ending.
yeah, never. I mean, I probably have 50 stories just to your point of it never ending, and I just remember going through it all. But
Yeah.
man, I'll say this: from 10 years old, I kind of knew you a little before, like I said, but we became boys and we traveled all over. I got to watch you climb and sharing these stories with you. You've always been a good guy, and I just mean that from across the board. And to see you married, to see you with kids, to seeing you finding your purpose, training a bunch of guys. I mean, I love all the guys you're training, and I see the skills and I see greatness coming out of them. And I know it's a combination of great people, but also everything you went through. To your point, you recognizing that those things happened for you. It was you sharpened your sword,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love hearing that you're in this space, and
Yeah.
I'm always there as a friend and as a brother. This podcast, like we titled it "Time to Breathe."
Yeah.
Time to breathe is deep. I mean, you might be thinking of starting lines, certain things about all the hard work, life, all these things. What is time to breathe? What makes you think about where you're at and just that word as a whole in your life?
For me, honestly, when you think of time to breathe, it's the time now. You know, you can't live in the past, you can't live in the future because all you have is now. And if you can't grasp and be thankful for what you have, then what can you be thankful for? What you can be, oh, I'll get it tomorrow, or I'll do it tomorrow. Like tomorrow's not promised. Get off your ass and do it now. Take a deep breath, get up and move. And take a step towards your, you're always stuck in your comfort zone. So take a step out of it and be uncomfortable. Face your fear. So for me, like when you think of time to breathe, that's kind of what I go to. I look at the past and be like, it's there. Take a breath, get rid of it. Where are you at now? How do you fix where you're at now? And that to me is, if you're stuck in your comfort zone, if you're stuck in your bubble and you're afraid to get out of it, take a breath, take a stance, go, move, and face your fear, move through it to get to the other side because success is on the other side of your fear. You just have to be able to grab it. And the only way to grab it is by getting it off your ass and doing it. So take a breath and go. That's what hits me when I think of, time to breathe.
Well said. No, I love that. I'm gonna have to ask this because your whole life has been dedicated to motocross, and you're in the trenches of it now with amazing riders. And I love
Yeah.
seeing everything. I love seeing your face. I mean, you being part of motocross is excites the heck out of me because you've dedicated your whole life to it, and you bring so much value to the sport. You're in the trenches. You're watching everything. You've seen everything today. What excites you the most about where motocross is at right now in the 2024 season?
just the viewership. Honestly, it's grown so much, and it can keep growing. You have the people like the Tomacs, and then you have the Lawrences, or who are bringing a whole lot to the table. The Sextons, and but then you have people like Plessinger, who is just holding it down to his roots, and like it's the characters. Like where I grew up, no one had a character. It was literally everyone's just robotic. It wasn't fun. Like that's where I kind of came in. Was like, no, dude, like let's get out of your shell, like have fun. We only get to do this once in our life, really. Like let's enjoy it. Where they were just too robotic. Then you have Plessinger, who's able to kick ass during the week and train and train and train, and then have his character on the weekend. But that's really who he is. So he's bringing just entertainment to the sport. And then you have the Lawrences, who are bringing a different perspective of fans into the sport, and having his deal that he has in the pits every weekend, and the
Mhm.
Sextons, who are just he's just the workhorse. And then you have the Deegans that come in. Then now you have the Julian, who's literally, if I'm to look at any of those guys and say what's the American dream like, I mean, he was born in Lake Havasu City. He was a jet ski world champ. He was still racing dirt bikes, and then he said, no, I'm going to race dirt bikes. Was a B rider 1 year ago. Right now he was a B rider, to where he's a factory 3-year deal with KTM. Hands down the American dream when it comes to a child, and a 17-year-old about to be an adult. So then you have people like that. It's like, you're not going to get those opportunities in a lot of places. The Deegans, obviously, with Brian, from his era to now, you have Danger Boy, and then, the Dax. You have Dax, who's coming in as well at the same time as Julian. There's just so much excitement, so much entertainment, so much everything differentiates between everybody, that it's like, you can't
Yeah.
grasp your mind around how much is out there. It's where me it was okay. There's 20 guys that can win, but they're all boring. There's no entertainment. There's no, well, besides James. James was just, his excitement of riding a dirt bike was insane. So like that was, I think, the biggest one. But
Mhm.
it was just like everyone's just so robotic. Yeah, I want to think this and this, and it's like, okay, cool, we're having a good day. Like it's just like now it's like, oh, they're so energetic, they're so fun to talk to, and they're bringing so much spice into Supercross and motocross, and it's like, yeah, we got to bring in more viewership, we got to bring in more people, we got to bring in more sponsors. How do we do that? By having a personality, by being marketable, or by being someone that they can use to sell, and not just a robot. In my opinion, that's what I love about it.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
a
That
lot,
well, you
but
got
that's what I
me.
love about
Yeah, no, you got me excited. I'm
it.
fired up. Well, the one cool thing amongst many through our friendship is our thirst for motorsports has
Yeah,
opened up so many doors. It brought us here on this time to breathe.
yeah,
And I love you, dude. I appreciate you. I hope we
yeah,
can jump on
of
more.
course,
And
yeah.
yeah, man, this is fun. But we'll I'll say peace out. Time to breathe. Love you, Davey. And
With you, bud.
can't wait to see you at the races hopefully soon. And we out.
Sounds good, man.
This has been insane. 2 years I've been wanting to launch a podcast, plus probably 5 years. And for whatever reason, I held back, but it was time to breathe. Time to breathe is just opening up, living, and connecting with some of my greatest friends. And man, bonding with Davi Millsaps, it brought me back through so much. And I mean, some of the takeaways and just the that I wanted to even go deeper into were like family. When you grow up in the moto world, it's all you know, and it's your whole identity. The pressure's on you. So you're a kid from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So Davey, to walk through that and to hear him speak that, it kind of pulled his mom and him and the relationship apart. It's been 17 years. To hear through mental health and concussions and just how gnarly, like Sports Illustrated said, this is one of the most physically demanding sports in the world. And it's like football and all these sports, you don't see the behind the scenes. But for Davey, to hear him pushing through everything and just to bring back all the time I spent with him since he was such a young kid, his family, his values, his training, his outlook on Supercross, it's just it's so cool pulling these things out of these guys and everyone that jumps on Time to Breathe. To me, it's a truly, to me, it is a time to live. It is a reminder to breathe. It's a connection to yourself that opens up the right surroundings, the right things around you. And so, Davey, was one of the top motocross athletes in the world, one of the winningest amateur riders of all time, factory rider at a young age. I mean, I think he turned pro at 16. Big, big, big dollars. And to go through family, to go through growth, to growing up in a barn, life is crazy. And the takeaways to me were just like, keep pushing after your dreams, surround yourself with the right people. Proud of Davey. Love seeing what he's doing. If you guys want to follow us, we're going to be putting out across a mix of things, but we have Time to Breathe. My Instagram's at Malcolm. And we're just trying to bring all of this together. It's all about good vibes, embracing the journey, putting out valuable tools out there, and hopefully going deep with some of these great people and having fun combos that open up and really kind of inspire you to breathe and go after your dreams. So at Malcolm, at Time to Breathe, we've got at The Mended. We've got a mix of businesses, a mix of fun, all with the same values. And we're grateful for you guys. And please message us if we can help in any way. We know life gets challenging and we're hoping to bond and meet in person at some point. But I love you guys. And that is Davi Millsaps episode. We out.